I can look at the computer screen and call this regular board meeting, June 9th, 2026 to order. Roll call vote, please.
Lee Delpan.
Present.
Patty Garbarino. Cindy Johansson.
Here.
Nancy McCarthy.
Here.
Marilyn Nemser.
Here.
Curtis Robinson.
Present.
Joe Sartori.
Going to be here and Patty Garbarino's not going to be. Let's have item number 1.03, approval and adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion?
I move. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And any abstentions?
Opposed.
Okay, one opposition for approve it, and the motion carries. Let's move on to public comment on items on or not on the agenda. Do we have anyone that wishes to speak on items on or not on the agenda? Okay then, seeing none, let's talk about the consent agenda. So we need to approve that. And before we have a motion, not always do I read the entire consent agenda, but I did see that Cindy not only volunteers for time, but gave a donation. Is that you?
Yes.
That did that? Thank you so much.
Me and my husband, yeah.
That was-
Yeah. So
Thank you.
I actually, because the minutes are included, right? I have a small clarification that I'd request when the minutes are approved, which is in my report at the last meeting. It references a JC, which I believe means John Carroll. I feel like we should spell that out, just when people in the future go into our archives and they wonder. It was John Carroll, and then it also references a John, which was John Lenz. So it just asks that we tighten that up.
I think that's appropriate. And with those changes, can we approve the consent agenda?
I would move to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, the consent agenda passes. Okay.
President Curtis,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but can I ask Member McCarthy to please voice her vote on every item so that we can have a clear record? We're actually required to do that because she's from the.
Oh, I heard everybody say yay.
Oh,
I
okay.
heard a
Thank you.
yay on everybody. Did I hear correctly?
Yes,
Sorry.
she did say this.
Okay, right. So, thank you for monitoring me very closely. I need it. Now we're having Marin County Superintendent of Schools.
All right, thanks very much. You have all probably taken note of the fact that that is not Vicki Asher sitting at the end of the table. I'd like to do two things. First, I'd like to welcome Bianca Rocha, who is our new Senior Executive Administrative Assistant to the Superintendent, a title that give me 4 more years and I'll have it down. But anyway, so Bianca has joined our team. Many of you know that Vicki will be retiring at the end of this month, and we've had a really nice amount of time for some overlap, and it's great to have Bianca on the team. So welcome, and you all get used to her and get to know her, and she's amazing, and that's great. I'd also like to take a moment to thank Vicki as she prepares for retirement, which is kind of emotional for both of us. What I want to
pause to clap, please.
Sure, yes. So I remember my very first day after being elected and coming into the office, and one of the first people I'd met Vicki before, but the warm welcome I got from her and then the support I've received over the last 3.5 years has been phenomenal. It's not always that you inherit an assistant and things go great. I think many of us in positions where there is support, sometimes you get somebody that maybe you don't get along with that well. That has not been the case with Vicki Asher. I think we've hit it off really well. We've become friends. Not only her, I think, famous professionalism, discretion, confidentiality, is known by all, but what you might not know is that she's been more than just a senior administrative assistant to the superintendent, or whatever that title is. She's been also a sounding board and sort of the voice of common sense for me. So she's usually the first person I talk to about an issue to just gauge, like, how would a normal person respond to this? And she's been amazing at that. So I still, I plan to call her from time to time as those things come up, but it's just been a real delight to work with you, Vicki. And I want to make sure I didn't miss anything else. One thing I'm going to miss, your sense of humor is amazing. Thank you. Yeah. And that's one way of saying she laughs at all my jokes, which is great. So good audience. But also, Vicky's sense of curiosity is amazing. Her curiosity about how how public agencies work and about policy and about how voters respond and all that stuff has been really valuable for me. So I'll miss you, Vicky. Hopefully you'll visit frequently, and we'll be able to keep our friendship going. So, and a few words about Bianca. She's coming to us after how many couple years at 3 years at MCBE? Going on 4 years, most recently at the SELPA. So Rebecca will miss her, I'm sure, but oh well, it's the way the cookie crumbles, you find so. Yeah. All right. So she's made the round. So when somebody has a lot to offer, often they get poached. So that's where we are with Bianca. So thanks so much for your willingness to take a risk and join the team. I think you'll love it, and I think you will. The board will all really appreciate Bianca's support as well. I wanted to mention that we did on the 1st of June, we did the Pride flag raising ceremony this year, which went really well. We had a student speaker from Terra Linda High School, who's the president of the GSA, the Gay Straight Alliance, which was wonderful. I also today, just coincidentally, I participated months ago in a research study by a person named Benjamin Kennedy, who's doing his doctoral dissertation at UC San Diego. And it's a seminal work about the experience of trans kids in California schools, really like the first of its kind study. And I was honored that, I think it was just coincidence that he reached out to me. So I was a participant in the study, and just today I got to spend a couple hours, which was well worth my time, observing his doctoral dissertation defense. And I'm kind of emotional. It was like, when someone gets that, big deal. So here's to Benjamin. So that was great. So we have another doctor who's doing really important and very brave work. So, and you can, hopefully his dissertation will get published somewhere where you can see it. So that's great. Let's see. Okay, on July 14th at Walker Creek Ranch, I think we're all looking forward to the Marin County Board of Education retreat. The board will be engaging in a self-evaluation goal-setting exercise from 9 o'clock till 2, partnering with ACCBE, that's the Association of California County Boards of Education, which is an organization specific to county boards, which are different than district boards. Cindy has been the point of contact, and I think the head cheerleader to help us in this area. And I think she has a few more details to provide right now. So,
yeah, well, for my fellow board members, so we'll have the CEO, as John mentioned, from ACCBE, and she'll be joined by Ken Barrick, who is a longtime board member with Alameda County Board of Ed, 18 plus years, and he's the current chair of their board. And we thought it would just be helpful for us as we really look at governance best practices. We will at the retreat look at our results of our first self-evaluation that's now part of our bylaws that we will conduct annually. So it'll create a baseline, and we can look at how we are doing and what we can do better. We'll identify, we hope, out of the retreat priorities to improve. And there's always room for improvement. Really excited about it. And there is going to be a little advanced homework. So I just wanted to make sure it was on your radar, because I know everybody's really busy. And so there are 2 requests. One is to please complete our first self-evaluation of the board. We will be sending that out soon. I don't have a definitive date. We will give you at least a week and a weekend. And it should take about 30 minutes. So just, but we really need full board participation. And then the second request is one that our facilitators feel is really important for a good retreat, which is the CEO is going to conduct individual interviews with each board member. And they're going to request, and they'll coordinate directly with you and your schedule about an hour of your time. And this is really twofold. The survey is about how we as a board collectively are functioning. And as I mentioned, it'll give us that baseline. The individual interviews are an opportunity for each individual board member to speak candidly about your current experience, your priorities and concerns. So we'll take both inputs and hopefully it'll be a great retreat. We are going to start promptly at 9 a.m. at Walker Creek. So plan accordingly and we'll end at 2.
And we should make a map on that side rather than the other.
Yes.
That's not.
Yes, make sure you have the directions. I think we've all been there, so hopefully we won't have any problems.
Thank you. Onward with my report. I want to mention, you'll notice that Bree will be speaking in detail about the budget today, but I did want to frame it a little bit. I wanted to frame it and provide some gratitude for Bree and everybody in the business office for getting the budget done and in front of the board in a timely manner, especially at a time when there's so much going on. One of the most notable things is that this is a long time coming, the complete turnover of our financial system, a huge lift, and to develop a budget during in that environment where we're pulling people away to do all kinds of work and support 17 school districts who are doing similar work is really admirable. So Bree and the team, thank you. Pam's here. Any other business people I can shout out to? All right. Thanks very much. What I want to point out also, and you'll hear this in more detail, is that our budget we're still in a very strong fiscal position. You will notice that we have strategically spent down some of our reserve to attend to some long nagging problems in terms of facilities and some other priorities. So you'll hear more about that when Bree gives her presentation later this evening. But we're in great shape. A few weeks ago, I was contacted by a reporter from the New York Times, which can make people nervous when you get that call. This was all good. This is a New York Times video reporter who wanted to do an online video presentation about a change in attitude, but with students and families favoring more career-oriented school programs. And she thought Marin might be a good place to look, and she was right. So we connected with Jesse. And if you go to the New York Times, we'll send you a link if we haven't already. You'll see a really good video that highlights school to career programs, mostly the student experiences with those, and a lot of the kids some are from the East Bay, but a lot of them from the programs that we support in Marin County. And you can hear really the philosophy behind it. Like, this is great stuff that we're doing in terms of like setting me up for a career, not just for college, but maybe college too. And making sure that we have viable work after we get out of school. So that's very exciting to get that sort of attention. We're trying to spread that as wide as we can around the county, let people know the good work that's been going on. We have some graduations coming up. It's that time of year, tomorrow, June 10th, at the Bill and Adele Jonas Center out at Indian Valley campus of College of Marin. We have our special ed graduation. 11 post-secondary and 6 high school students will be recognized for their achievement. If you haven't been to that, it's worth going. It's my favorite graduation, and I've been to a lot of graduations. It's like super joyous. So I would strongly recommend that you attend. You'll be warmly welcomed. We also have Marin's Community School Middle School promotion, June 11th at 3 p.m. And we have 11 students promoting from 8th grade into high school. And lastly, the high school graduation will be June 11th at 5:30 p.m., graduating 24 students from Marin's Community School this year, which is very exciting. I just want to mention, and lastly, I wanted to just mention that I participate in a lot of like sort of community get-together events with a lot of public agencies and nonprofits. And one that I went to that I think is worth mentioning, nothing that the board or that I'm going to have like a real direct role in, at least I don't think so, but supporting this idea in the canal, there's a soccer team called Canal FC, and it's really big and it's really popular. And the best thing about it, I think, is that it's not pay to play like other club sports in Marin. And a lot of us who've had kids who do club sports, it's very expensive. And this is providing a model where kids can play whether they can afford it or not. And the fees are very low for kids who, even the kids who can afford it, it's much less than it would be to play for another team, a typical Marin County club team. And it's also just a big community builder. And it was really exciting to see so many public agencies and nonprofits come together, like you name it, they were all there to try to support this idea that's growing and expanding, and I hope becoming an example for what other sports teams in Marin might do to provide this access for kids. So that is the conclusion of my report. Thanks.
All right, let's move on to public hearings. So now we have items on the agenda 5.01. So we're going to open this meeting to the public hearing. And then we're gonna have some presentations, question and comments, and let's have it open for public. Finance Director Bree Brown, maybe we'll lead it off.
Let Laura go.
Okay, go on, Laura.
All right, well, hi there, all of you. Tonight's public hearing, we're going to be going through the LCAP. In your packet, you have the very lengthy, drawn out version of the LCAP. What you're going to get tonight is a much better, easier to digest and much more enjoyable version of the LCAP. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to introduce the team that's with me. Of course, Bree, you know, is going to be here. We have Katie Foster and Elizabeth Apposini, who are the also want to mention Michelle Drake, who are the support to create an LCAP. Okay, so here we go. We have the brand new facade of the school, which looks pretty amazing. All right, so really quickly tonight we'll go over a little bit of LCFF, or the history of it, an overview of LCAP, a teeny bit of the California accountability system, trustees' role in this process, and then our LCAP specifically. What we're not going to cover is we're not going to do the dashboard 101. We aren't going to talk about programmatic shifts and really anything that's not in the LCAP. And mostly what our LCAP does cover is indeed what is specific to the alternative education program and the intricacies of the local control funding formula, which easily could take an evening in and of itself, and that'll be fun. Okay, so as you all know or may not know, that in 2013, Jerry Brown signed into law the LCFF funding formula. And really what that does is that took the decision making of how funding came through to LEAs and districts from Sacramento into local control. So the people that are actually providing the educational program for students are actually making the decision about what they should be doing, buying, purchasing, and following through on. That's not to say that they have complete control. There's some guardrails there, but for the most part, prior to this legislation, it was very specific. Here's the dollars for this. You must pay for this. You can buy nothing else. Only pencils with this money, etc. So the overview, the LCAP is really designed to be to reduce disparities in and across student groups. It really focuses and asks us to look very closely at all student groups and identify where are the discrepancies and how are we addressing them. It also commands that you engage with educational partners. It's not a document that's free floating. We don't get to sit down and decide only what we're doing. We actually need to engage with our community partners, our students, our parents, etc. And again, getting to the accountability and compliance, this is the guardrails that I'm talking about. There are guardrails that we need to follow, and that really comes within the accountability system or the dashboard and the way in which we measure growth and success. So it's an overview. It's an equity-focused document that prioritizes students who need more to get the same. It's not to say that it's not something that could include all students, and many of our districts do, and in fact, our LCAP does include all students. But it is really specifically designed so that your district will make sure that you are raising, how are you making sure that education is equitable and you're paying attention to all kids, not just some kids. It's district driven, it's our goals, how we feel like we need to move forward. It's responsive, it's a 3-year plan. It is not a static plan. It is something that can be changed at any time. So it's almost like you think of like a football game, that it's downs and yardage. So if after the second down, we realize, ooh, things aren't going very well, we want to go off into another direction, we have the flexibility to do that. Accountability oriented, and it's also budget oriented. One of the guidelines for our work is that we know that we can have anything, but we can't have everything. So everything in this LCAP is based upon a need and how we need to address student programs, and not with an endless pot of money. So how is it different? The COE LCAP is different from a district LCAP in that our LCAP does not include much beyond what's going on within our student program and alternative education, period, that's it. As well as there's a SNC in there about our responsibility to respond to the countywide foster youth and expelled youth. You'll find that in Goal 5. We'll talk about that in a minute. Whereas the district LCAP, and John could speak to this a little bit, is that it targets a little bit more of perhaps more of the general operations of the district, of those students also that live within the boundaries of the district. Okay, so really quickly, LCAP, it lists all the goals, it defines metrics and how we measure growth. It details the actions on how we're doing in these goals. Are we making growth? How's it going? And then it also tracks the expenditures. Your role, I know you've all been waiting. So your role is to develop a deep understanding of what our LCAP is and what it stands for. You're stopped in the elevator, you want to know, what is your LCAP? What is it about? How is it developed? What's important in it? With the part of tonight is with district is for you in this public hearing, you get to have some input for us to consider and to think about as we're putting together the final LCAP for the end of the month. And it's really to encourage and participate in ongoing engagement of educational partners. And where this really shows up for you all is in that legislative action day. So you've now heard, or you will hear, what's going on in our LCAP and what's meaningful and how our students are doing. And when you're in that legislative action day, oh, I heard something, that makes sense. I'm going to try and push for that. And that's actually what I meant to say on question 3 minutes 4. So I'm going to move on. All right, so in this plan, it's a hot mess. I'm not going to lie. I've been doing this since 2013, and the format is terrible. I mean, it really is. It's very difficult to read. In the end of the story, it's a budget overview for parents. So you're going to see budget, very first thing. Then you're going to have a document that is going to be both an annual update. So we're looking backward, how do we do? That also looks forward. So these amazing, brilliant people behind me are going to actually clarify all of that.
Can I sorry to interrupt.
Do you want to comment on the hot mess?
On the hot mess. It's not the hot mess that you created. It's a hot mess that has been created by the state. And
that we are required to use is indeed required to be used.
That's
We have no way to deviate from it, and even if there's a small.
It's not really a hot.
Oh, it's not very easy to read.
I think it's safe to say it's a template that was designed for every single school district in California, and one size does not fit all.
Right.
No, and I think that when, like Katie says, it's not that bad, but Katie and I have been looking at this template for a really long time, so it's, so you get it, right? But anyways, okay, so we're gonna start with the budget overview.
But like Laura said, and John as well, one size does not fit all. And so the one thing that really is different for a county office LCAP over a district LCAP is the budget overview is actually that recently, and only within the last few years, changed to have what they call a county office budget overview for parents. But the bottom line of what the budget overview is it's showing what our total budget is. So this should align. Hopefully these numbers all match exactly the numbers I'm going to show you in a few minutes when we get to budget. But what it really does is it pulls it out. So as you can, I'm going to do colors. And I'm also going to try to describe that in case you are colorblind. So the blue color on the far right that says total LCFF funds, that's pulled out into the second or the middle circle. And then from that middle circle, there's like a gray or very, very light blue on the far right side that's like a tiny piece of pie that's pulled out again. And the purpose of that is to say, okay, of our total county office budget, this much is aligned to the LCFF, which aligns to the LCAP, which is the accountability part of the financial part. And then we have, I think it's about 421,000 has been determined by the state calculation that we need to spend on our students. So that, as Laura said, the students that need more to get the same.
Me? Oh yeah, go ahead.
Why is it called something budget overview for parents?
So that's what it's called. The whole template, or every template, whether your district or county office, has what's called a budget overview for parents. And it was just trying to somehow align the fact that the LCAP is the accountability piece to the LCFF, so that parents really understand these two things should be paired.
They shouldn't be separate. So we're doing separate public hearings, one for the LCAP and one for the budget, but really they're symbiotic. They need to be together.
Thank you.
So,
But they're also ultimately about transparency
yes,
for
yes,
parents.
yes.
This is supposed to be.
Yeah, I don't, so what Laura just said, if you didn't hear, she just said this is supposed to be easier to read for parents. I don't know that I agree that it's easier to read, but that is the ultimate goal, because like you said, it is about transparency and making sure people understand. So if a parent was concerned, hey, are we spending enough? You could go to this document and say, okay, you know that your LCAP says that you need to be spending at least $421,000.
I think there was also if I remember I don't know the exact date, but when the LCAP first came out, that wasn't part of it. It was an add-on. And the LCAP changed every year for years. That keeps changing. And one of the main goals of it was to make sure there was robust input from all kinds of community members, parents, whomever. And one of the things they're bumping up against is there's this perception that parents weren't knowledgeable about it. So I think they gave it that title specifically to get parent attention on it in districts. Bryan County offices, so it's a slightly different game, but I think it's more of like an advertising thing, but like a PR thing.
Yeah.
I like to tell stories. I'm not going to right now, but I will say that the story of our school, I will relate this little story, which is as we were reviewing the LCAP with the staff, and what came up as our question for this summer and next year is how do we bring joy to the campus, which I just thought was such a cool question that we're asking and talking about because that's key and central, and it's so easy to forget about that when we're like digging into these really kind of whatever you called it, plans. So the purpose of this is year three, we're proposing year 3 of a 3-year plan. So next year we will be writing our next 3-year plan. And the other thing we will be doing next year is having a self-study for our WASC, for our accreditation visit the following year. So actually we're very lucky that these two things line up so well, because we're able to make it all one strategic plan, which is what we have been doing all along, or the last 3-year plan as well. So we're looking forward to doing that. Our engagement, all of our engagement looks a little bit different. It's not like we can say we have a leadership class or we have, 60 parents come to our PTA meetings. But with our parent empowerment specialist, he's on the phone to every family every month, just about. I mean, every single family multiple times a year. He actually has a headset because he's on the phone so much. But we also have 2 active parents on our school site council, which serves as a school site council for all of our programs. Elizabeth has met with our bargaining units, our educational staff. Like all we do is our LCAP, all we do is look at data and make plans together. Our ELAC and our community schools advisory team is all the same. It's all the same board because we don't have enough sort of varied participation. And that's how they are all. Oh, and the SELPA is not on there, but we also consulted with our SELPA as well. That's a really good idea. Thank you, Rebecca. So just briefly, I'm going to be very brief, and then Elizabeth is going to step up. So as you heard, we had 24 graduates this year. If you recall, my first year we had 1, so we're super excited that we have 24. We are deep into our restorative practices. Our new wellness center is up and going. We have our mental health therapist, and we're leaning into tier 1 supports. So in the classroom, what every student gets. We did have our pilot program of our independent study 4-day program, which I would say was successful, and we continue to need more flexible options, but you will be hearing more about maybe what that looks like as we continue to look into how that's going. Like I just said, the wellness center is built, and we have had a 3-year implementation of our community schools program. It's, as you know, probably it's state funding for community schools, which we applied for and received. And that all of that work that we do within that program and all the support we get also, like for example, our community schools advisory team really heavily influenced, which included parents and students and community members, really heavily influenced our 3 goals for our LCAP 3 years ago, for example. So we have a lot of really good involvement through that process. And always we're in a continuous improvement. We are always saying what did we do, what worked, and how could we do better. And I want to shout out before I give up the driving to Michelle Drake. You might not be able to live without Vicky. I don't know how we're gonna live without Michelle. She, in addition to all of the other ways that she helps us, she also put together this presentation. So this is where I am going to pass it on to Elizabeth. Her title is assistant principal, but she's so much more. Elizabeth Aberstein.
So you'll see the strengths and the highlights that Katie was just talking about, and as well as these reflections on challenges and areas for growth in each individual goal. So I'm going to go through them somewhat quickly, and then I'll point out where they show up in the goals. So we are always reflecting. We have the best staff. It's really easy to look at data sometimes in an alternative setting and be really discouraged, but the key is that we are always reflecting and focusing on how our students are growing and how we're growing as a staff. So attendance, we reflect on, continues to be a challenge. We do, welcome in students who have been chronically absent in their previous settings and work on how we can focus on growth. So that's continues to be a challenge and area of focus for us. We talk about how can we just build community. Really, all of these things speak to our desire to bring more joy. And that's in service of connecting kids to their school community, whereas before they may not have felt that connection or felt that's possible. So that's kind of what these all speak to. We continue to look at how we can get kids to earn more credits and recover credits because many of them come to us credit deficient. One way of doing that, how can we build out more flexible learning pathways? So not just the traditional, your core subjects and some electives, what else can we be creative about? And then also one of our metrics is assessment participation. So that really speaks to our kids' persistence and stamina in hard tasks. That's not something we talk about a lot. So how can we build that muscle with our kids? So this is goal 1. It's really the academic focus goal. So you'll see up there, we want to see kids graduate or completing a high school equivalency, the high SET exam, third one not and or, but third one and or enrollment in a post-secondary training program when they leave us. And so we've highlighted the successes. Yay, this year's a high graduation rate. We're really proud of our students. This was really the first year. It wasn't extremely stressful this week getting things finished. We did some different things there. We were definitely more intentional about checkpoints throughout the year, and that really paid off, and that's amazing. And challenges continue to be to reach these goals, kids accessing school and coming to school, so chronic absenteeism, and that kind of feeds into the inconsistent credit accruals. So those again continue to be challenges here. This goal really focuses on the social emotional and the sense of belonging, right? So this is, whereas the first one was more academic focused, this is really wanting us to build school's connection to school and making sure they have a positive relationship with school when they're with us. If that wasn't happening before. So we're really proud we have now 2 full-time bilingual mental health providers. We have our brand new wellness center where kids are able to access more services this year. We have new driving para positions. So those are we call them learning coaches. They're in the classroom supporting students and also providing transportation to and from school. So that's been amazing to expand our ability to bring more kids in on the vans this year. And again, challenges continue to be, yes, actually attendance is not up there because it was mentioned before, but we did see an increase this year in tension on campus, unfortunately. So we're thinking of ways like how, again, these kids that are involved in conflict outside of school, how can we make them feel more part of the community and welcome them in so they feel safe at school, bring them into our culture, how can we be more intentional about that? So that's going to the stronger need for how we're onboarding new students and welcoming them, especially halfway through the year. We find that that's a challenging time to welcome new students because half of them are already established and then they get these new batch in. So that's always a challenging time of year. And then really continuing to focus on our restorative practices when harm is done. How are we repairing that harm and bringing the family and the student in? Goal 3 was actually a 1-year goal for the 24-25 school year. So this goal really centered around us kind of beefing up how we use ARIES to track student intervention. So we were able to do that. We now use that tool and run those reports and look at those with our cost team. So that was a 1-year goal that we kind of checked off last year. And then this goal is our equity multiplier goal. So this is about having evidence-based practices to support gaps that we're identifying. So this goal is really about preparing students for the next step. So this speaks to strengthening how we transition students if they do want to return to district. And also when they're leaving our juvenile court school, how do we make sure they're warmly handed off to the next step and they're prepared to do so? And then also academic, like really focusing more on literacy and math and reading intervention while they're with us to make sure that if they do choose to return to district or whatever their next step is, that they're well prepared to do so. So a challenge this year was we tried out a program, we piloted it, it was less effective than we wanted it to be. So we're sort of back to the drawing board on what's a good program that all of our staff are comfortable using and our kids will engage with. Because if they're not engaging, then it's, and so that continues to be a challenge.
Okay, goal 5 is the goal I mentioned earlier, where we have a responsibility as a county office of education for the foster and expelled youth across the county. So these are a few of the areas, where we are providing a level of support for foster youth, direct student support, which we generally don't do much. It has come in the form of tutoring, providing tutoring for students, as well as providing support in completing the FAFSA college applications. Capacity building, really trying to increase the amount of time and energy or attention that our districts are able to provide on the foster youth that are enrolled in their districts. This also includes our homeless students as well. And it is a challenge for some of our districts that are quite small. These foster and homeless liaisons also happen to be the special ed director and might also be in charge of student services. So it's a lot for them to juggle. So we do the best we can to try and figure out a way to help them do their job. And also providing professional development. So we have had some trainings around trauma-informed supportive care. And then one of the things that we're working on right now with our districts is creating a transportation agreement. And what this transportation agreement essentially says is foster youth have the right to attend school in their school, their school of origin. So I wanted to say that correctly. And the transportation agreement sort of works out between the caregiver, the county of Marin, and the districts, how that student is able to access that school of origin, and if it even makes sense for the student to do so. And there's a lot of reasons why it would and would not. And then this is generally the highlights of how we're doing as it relates to the metrics that are used to measure success in our LCAP as it relates to this particular goal. So school stability is not something we have a whole lot of control over, but if you extend this out a little and our liaisons are really doing their job and really making sure that their foster youth are well taken care of, then there might be a higher percentage or a higher chance of them actually staying in school and being successful. So the suspension rate, that same explanation follows true for the suspension rate. It is lower than it has been and lower than the state. 0 expulsions. Chronic absenteeism continues to be an issue, and our foster youth, continue to have difficulties and challenges as it relates to really feeling welcome and belonging in a school, especially when they're moved around. And priorities, attendance and engagement, academic achievement. The foster youth age out at age 18. So getting them to a place where at the age of 18, they actually know what to do with the rest of their life is one of the big issues that we.
Who knew what they wanted to do for the rest of their life when they were 18?
I know what so, and also focusing more energy on the connect to career and tech. All right, that was the last slide. So in summary, this LCAP is what we believe is a rock solid educational plan for the students that we get to serve. It emphasizes equity times a bazillion. It through the academics and the social emotional. I want to underscore the social emotional the most because I feel like if you're not social emotionally feeling like you could be here, then the academics are nothing. We may as well just throw it all out. It provides a solid and well thought out program. It connects students to meaningful opportunities and real world experiences. It's very flexible, as Elizabeth pointed out. They tried something, really dug into it, and it just wasn't right. And it's a responsible plan that balances dollars with what the need is. And just to underscore the importance of that, it is a plan, but it is enacted and put into place by all of the brilliant educators at the school, led by Katie and Elizabeth, and then Bree and Pam and her team and Jordan, really underscoring and just being, we stand on their shoulders to make sure that this plan is solid. And that's it. Thank you guys a lot.
Great, thank you.
Excellent. Wow.
Okay.
We just have a comment.
We have questions from the board now, okay, who would like to go first?
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
I just wanted to comment that with everything that's out there and everything that this group is doing, the one thing that really stuck in my mind is that you look at the kids and you make sure that they have an orientation for their future, that they become successful. I think that's a real basic of what you do in spite of all of these things like bullet points that you did. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the board? Trustee.
Excellent, love it, everything that you said. I had a question about goal 2. Elizabeth, when you were talking about that slide, there's for student belonging and engagement, it says below target and the challenge. And I'm just curious, do you create your own targets? Do you have a peer cohort, like, or a state target? What target are you comparing yourself to?
Yeah, that's a really good question. When we developed the LCAP a couple years back, I think we were looking at the measurement, which I think used to be the California Healthy Kids Survey. We no longer use that. So this is a tricky one because we've kind of tried different things, and we used Kelvin a couple years ago and that didn't give us great data. So this year we developed our own survey and did it with kids, and that's where we kind of saw, okay, we're not where we want to be, which is seeing a majority of students, I would say, I think it's 70%, saying that they feel like connected to school and that they belong.
Great, thanks.
Any further questions from the board? Okay, I have one question. Regarding the mental health and wellness, and that you have a couple new counselors that, can you just describe kind of, are they going to be doing one-on-one? Are they going to be doing group? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I did some research last night. And I remembered from my pediatric training that with kids with behavioral problems, there's a couple different diagnoses. Okay, there's oppositional defining disorder, and then there's also conduct disorder. Okay, we've heard recently about attention deficit disorder and other disorders of the kids. But what experience do these counselors have with this type of treatment specifically? And are there any group types of engagements that would really kind of, put an umbrella over this issue? Because a lot of these kids have these behavioral problems. They probably have these diagnoses. So we just want to make sure that we're giving the most we can for these kids with these issues.
Yeah, we actually don't see a lot of students with those diagnoses, or at least not in their records. So maybe they're undiagnosed. I don't know. Lisa might need to pipe in if I get this wrong, but school-based therapy basically really exists for the purpose of engaging kids in school and helping them build the skills they need in order to find success at school, right? So if they have a trauma response to being redirected because of their past, the school-based therapist doesn't do therapy about that past trauma, but rather, when you have this trauma response, what are ways you can re-regulate in the moment so that you can get into the class and get your learning done? So it's sort of a different than just a typical mental health therapist. The way that multi-tier system of support, MTSS, works is every student gets some, right? All of the students. So all of the students get our core, which is they'll go into classrooms and lead trainings. They use the Signs of Suicide screener for all students. They'll host wellness events and work on sort of supporting teachers to support social and emotional skills for students. And then beyond that, there's tier 2 where there's groups. So we had this year, our students participated in aggression reduction treatment, an ART group. They participated in a CBITS group, which is cognitive behavior intervention for trauma in schools. So we do have very targeted groups for behaviors and or for life circumstances. And then finally, many students also still get the one-on-one therapy because they do bring so much to school. However, if it's beyond the scope of what a typical school-based therapy would be, we refer them out for more intensive treatment. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's thank you. Okay, any other questions for the team? Dana?
I have a question.
Trustee McCarthy.
Where do you refer them out to?
It depends, but the County of Marin cognitive behavior team, so or Huckleberry, there are various community-based organizations that offer different sorts of resources depending on what the need is.
And that is one-on-one involvement?
Generally, yes.
Okay, any other questions? Any comments from the public? Okay, now this is where I get tricked up. Do we keep the public meeting open until next week and then close it, or do we? Close it now. Let's close the public meeting and move on to item number 502. Thank you.
I also want to mention that we have 5 new staff babies in the last 2 years, so just want to also mention that.
Thank you. Baby.
That makes scheduling difficult. That's the staff and the kids. All right, okay, now we're moving on to 5.02, public hearing 2026-27, Mill County Office of Education budget on refuse collection. Bree Brown, let's open the meeting to public hearing and hear the presentation.
So I'm not going to present or have a paper in front of you. You can look at the agenda if you would like to look at the handout for this particular one. Because remember, Barbarino is not here. We typically separate out the refuse due to her conflict of interest with the refuse. But I believe the balance on it was approximately $80,000 this year. So. And like we discussed last year, that's actually not something that we bid out. That's something that the county bids out, and then every section of the county is assigned a particular vendor. So that vendor choice is actually not up to us.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions from the board? Okay, any questions from the public? Right, do we need to take action? Yes, we don't take action. Okay, let's go.
Just to make sure we're really clear for people who don't know, Patty Garbarino's family owns the refuse service, sanitary services. They're the contractor who picks up trash.
Yeah, but our area happens to fall
It's the
under your
president.
jurisdiction.
Essentially.
And we've been separating it out for as long as I've been
Yes.
before, so this is not an uncommon thing. Okay, then let's close the public hearing and move on to the next item. Thank you. 503, public hearing 2026-27, Marin County Office of Education budget. Assistant Superintendent Bree Brown again.
Pam Paving.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Bringing forward today our 26-27 preliminary budget for Marin County Office of Education. This slide is just a reminder of our budget process. That is a 2-year process, and they are multiple crossovers there. They're rolling cycles. At this point, we're at June, where we're planning for the budget for the new year. Next time, it will bring it forward in December for your first interim, and in March, and then in October for the unaudited actuals. We also wanted to mention some preliminary budget key takeaways. As John mentioned before, our overall financial position is stable while planning cautiously amid state and federal uncertainty. Our deficit spending has increased and the fund balance has decreased in alignment with the planned contributions. We also like to mention that the overall funding for LCFF for LEAs has increased 4.31% from the combined statutory COLA of the 2.87. And the additional 1.4 for super COLA. That's the state. Other revenues are down, other state funding is down due to removal of one-time monies, while federal funding drops 67%. And other local revenues remain steady. Our expenditures consist of higher staffing costs due to increases with bargaining, negotiated increases with bargaining units, and comparable management increases. Supplies and services were decreased to align with funding. Contributions, increase in contributions due to uncertain federal funding and investments with long-term bucket. Slide here represents the revenue compositions. More details can be found on the grants and revenue page. You'll notice that our other local revenues consist of 45% of our revenue composition. And following that is LCFF sources, which is 40%, and then other state revenues, 12%. As always, when we present the budget, we follow assumptions, we include assumptions in the funding rates. On this page, will also reflect a question that was brought up previously about the per student ADA amount, in that for this year for the budget is $16,951.92. Every year follows assumptions, whatever reporting that we do. Differences between estimated revenues for actuals for 25-26 and the preliminary budget includes LCF revenues increased by approximately 1.8 million, primarily to supply pass through to districts. Federal revenues have decreased and local revenues remain steady. Expenditures, salaries and benefits budget updated for negotiated increases. Supplies and services are aligned with the updated grant funding. We also have contributions that increase through the potential coverage of the mental health programs that have uncertain federal funding. Thanks, ma'am.
So the reason we have this slide about the differences between the estimated actuals and the preliminary budget is just because at every interim, we have the tax forms that I've talked to you about, the state required forms, have a comparison of the previous period. So Pam shared the first slide with you, which is kind of our budget cycle. And so the previous period to this period was second interim, even though it was technically for the prior fiscal year. But that's why we did a little bit of a comparison to these two fiscal years. And so Pam gave us a very wonderful, very high level summary. In your packet is 233 pages of intense details, a very long narrative, breakdown by program, so that there is more information and more content than you could possibly want. Or I hope that you want it as much as I do, because I enjoy that. And so actually I'm going to step into the fun part now that Pam's gone over all the numbers. I'm going to kind of mix the second end of our presentation on SACS forms, because they are important, because that is where the meat of our information is. And I'm also going to kind of talk to you about how we're integrating our new financial system into some of these reports, because we're bringing to you the traditional reports this first preliminary budget. But next time we see you on the 23rd, when we do the final adopted budget, we're going to integrate in some reports from the new system and take away some of our old reports that are a little archaic and very human consuming. So, and I have some examples too that I can pull up and show you in a minute. But first, I just kind of want to go over the SACS forms. I'm not going to read this one, but I think there was some discussion last time around about what do we focus on. So I just wanted to bring your attention to what I would consider the three most important SACS forms to look at. And I even wrote what page they start on in the board agenda. So if you click on the board agenda, there's a link to the budget and you can link, and those page numbers are right there. But I would say the Form 01, the Form MYP, which is the multi-year projection, and the criterion standards are the three that I would ask anybody who's interested about our budget to focus on. Again, I just have this here for your reference, how to read the SACS forms. This happens to be our Form 01, that's very top, the revenues. Object codes are on the left-hand side, tell you what that type of revenue is, and then it's broken down into those estimated actuals, which is where we think 25-26 is gonna end up, and the budget that we are presenting to you today, which is the 26-27 budget. And then at the very far right is what's called the percent diff column, and that percent diff column shows the changes, and that's where some of the numbers from the presentation that Pam just gave you came from, especially related to the decrease in federal funding. It's fairly significant at this point in time. Overall, before I get into some talk about these reports, I just kind of wanted to summarize that we are in a good position, but this budget does look very different than last year's budget because we've completed some of our long-term planning, especially around facilities. And so our ending fund balance reflects that. We have not done a lot of work on facilities in a long time, and we knew that we needed to do that. And over the course of this year, I've been able to work with all the wonderful programs on M&O, and we have put together a long-term plan for bringing our facilities, not upgrading, but just bringing them up to standard. So, and it will be expensive, and likely that will change over the course of time because everything, grows every single time we do something. These prices are going up. So, but at the end of this current 3-year cycle, because everything's always on our MYP, which is a 3-year cycle, our multi-year projection, we're currently still projecting our ending fund balance to be at 55% or about $36.6 million. So. And then I always include the glossary for those of you that I acronym too hard for, so that you can have that. And before we go into questions really quick, I did just want to hold up some of these, and I'll be happy to pass them around because I'm really excited about them because our new fiscal system. So in the current report, you'll see pages like this, and our new financial system with the press of a button prints out something like this. So instead of having to have our support staff enter these, we're going to present you with these in 2 weeks. And I am so excited about it because it is such a savings on staff time. And it's just, it's kind of the culmination of this huge effort we've been working on for the last year of making it really worthwhile for us. That's what it's about. We want to focus our energies in getting things right and having things correct and making sure employees are paid correctly, making sure districts are getting their invoices out on time, making sure our vendors are happy with us, and all of those things. And the more we can do that and have a much more functioning and downright modern system is going to make our lives better, which I would hope turns into making programs life better so they can focus more on kids.
Great. Thank you. Any questions? Marilyn.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, Marilyn first, and then Trustee McCarthy.
It's a comment question. First, I wanted to thank you and tell you how much I appreciated the, I guess you've called them office hours, the 2 different hours you've offered to board members so that we can ask you questions. And I've learned a lot during that time, and I really have appreciated it. And the follow-up question is, I just wondered, since this is new this year, how it's going. Our board members seem to be are people taking advantage of the office hours?
I was contacted by a few board members, not like we were discussing attendance about our students. I would love to see a higher attendance rate, but I'm very excited every time that somebody shows up.
Okay, Trustee McCarthy, you got a question?
I do. How expensive is expensive with all of these upgrades that you're speaking about? And we don't need to consult regarding some of these major decisions on large expenditures.
So if we're talking about facilities, which I think what you're focusing on, I would like to reiterate that they're not upgrades. We have not had a consistent deferred maintenance plan here at Marin County Office of Education in some time. And so many of the buildings have not received regular maintenance. So we're not actually planning upgrades at this time. We're just planning on bringing the buildings up to a standard, up to where they should be receiving regular maintenance at all times. And some of the buildings are needing things from, roofing to flooring, just things that haven't been upgraded in a very long time. And I've worked very closely with Adam, our assistant superintendent of M&O, who has developed that plan. And we follow all proper guidelines. So if there's a project that is large enough to require going out to bid, we are bidding those projects. They're not just being arbitrarily chosen. We're going out and following all the proper protocols for every project that is of a large dollar amount. But he has worked in coordination with Superintendent Carroll about what programs, because the list was really long. We have a lot longer list than what's actually in the budget. And there are some upgrades or some, what I would consider, I guess, desires or dream projects that are not on that list, that would be great to do. But at this time, we're only focusing on what has to be done, not what we want to be done.
Assistant Superintendent, could you clarify, were these expenses in the budget that was approved by the board last year for this fiscal year?
Some were, but we have added additional this year. The plan was not complete at the time of budget last year. And we have completed at this time the full plan. Assistant Superintendent Adam Jennings was just starting last year. Actually, I think there was a gap actually as the budget was being developed last year. And so some of the projects in the 5-year plan are new.
What's the threshold that you would come to us? Because sometimes we talk about the bids and approve the money that goes out to the person who gets we're usually involved in some of that process.
Usually,
when does it come to us and when does it not?
Usually, a true bid is what I think $110,000. I'm afraid I'm not 100% on that number right there, but when we're talking like some of these roofing projects, that's only at $40,000, and so it's well below what that threshold. We are bidding those just because we think that that's the proper protocol to make sure that we're getting the best value. Or at least getting, even if we don't get formal bids, depending on the price, we're getting multiple bids and multiple quotes to make sure that we're getting the best value. But right now the list is prioritized by urgent to and down.
And to answer your question further, the board does award the bids. So you'll see tonight on your agenda that you've got 2 bid awards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions, Trustee Johansson?
So the forecast for the reserve for year 3 is 36 million.
Mm-hmm.
And what is that down from? Where are we now?
I actually let me tell you what I will tell you what the end of this current of the first projection year, which is the end of the 26-27 projected year, has us at has us at 60% or 40 we're $50 million.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought. So that's my question. That's pretty big. That's a very big shift.
It is a very big shift.
And I'm actually very supportive of one-time expenses, fixing capital expenditures. I'm curious, when you look at the 3-year forecast and drawdowns from the reserve, is there a rough percentage of how much are ongoing costs versus one time?
Well, I will tell you right off the bat that a little under 10 million is what we have over the course of the 3 years is what we have set aside for facilities. So that's the bulk of the chunk right there. There are a couple of federal programs that we're floating this year in the hope that we receive that federal funding, specifically the mental health programs. And so we're currently hoping that that happens. That would be a 1 year. So if those didn't come to fruition, then they would be removed from the out years.
And
But right
can I
now-
point out that
Yeah.
we're not just hoping for
Yeah.
the sake of hoping.
Yeah, there's
The
lots
courts
of- yeah,
have
it's very-
ordered the administration to pay that money. And we're waiting for that to show up. In the meantime, we can't, it's
No, I understand.
it's not right to put it in the budget if we're not sure it's.
But so those are the only the ongoing costs pulled from the reserves or grants that you're kind of caught in that situation. It's not.
There are some deficit spendings, but I would not entitle them deficit spending. It's hard sometimes because we get a lot of grants that are multi-year grants. And we're only allowed to account the revenue in the year that we receive the revenue. And so it's a little bit of it's a little bit misleading because we receive the money in year one, but we're spending it over multiple years. So years 2 and 3 look like they're deficit spending, but really we received the money in year one. So if we netted them together, they would net to 0. But it appears in the subsequent years that we're deficit spending because that revenue was already reported in a prior year. So that's why I caution us from completely saying that we're just totally, I don't believe it's a structural deficit. I believe that it's one-time monies and intentional spending such as the facilities that we currently have going on.
Thank you.
Great, any further questions? All right, seeing none, well, any questions from the public comment on the budget? And now seeing none, we'll close the public meeting and move on to the next item. And are we gonna have any more engagement with the finance director office if trustees have questions as they look through the budget over the next 2 weeks?
I don't have any office hours scheduled, but I'd be happy to schedule some more office hours if you're interested. We do have changes that we will be making over the next couple of weeks. And I would be happy to make some office hours in a week prior to working, so that anybody sort of spending on.
This is where last year we
We have a
organized.
process,
Yeah.
right? And so we're trying to stick to the same process each year, which was developed over the many years.
Well, what we had decided last year was that we would have office hours prior, so that's what I offered last week, was those office hours. But I'm happy to do a second round if.
I thought last year we had we all sent you questions and then you shared out kind of an overall Q&A, FAQ.
That's just that's not, you're welcome to send me, but we have asked questions of the departments and we will be sending those out to you. But if you have additional questions, I would be happy to take those and get those answered.
Wonderful. I just want to make sure that all the trustees have an opportunity to communicate with you before we go ahead and sit and pass the budget next month, so we don't have a lot of
That's-
questions,
That's fun.
right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Right.
yes,
Yeah.
you're right. Okay, all right, now we can move on. Action items. Okay, let's go to action item 6.01. Award for bid of the 111 Las Galinas flooring and painting project. The superintendent assistant Adam Jennings. Go right ahead.
Yeah, so hi, thank you. This is a great segue into the discussion we were just having because we're going to bring to you, actually in this item and the next item, 2 bids for your review and recommended award related to for maintenance projects both here at MCOE Maine and also at the Walker Creek branch. So we'll start with our first agenda item, and I'm going to introduce our director of facilities, Julian Jeffries, who's going to talk a little bit about the project, and then we'll bring up Damian Lee from Greystone West, who will talk to us about the bid itself.
Good evening, board. As he mentioned, my name is Julian Jeffries, Director of Maintenance and Operations here at MCOB. I don't know if many of you know my name yet, but I've been around for a couple of years now. But I'm going to introduce the upcoming exciting project that we have going on here at the main office here. We're going to be doing a flooring renovation and painting project here in the main office. And this project is going to address, like Bree was saying, years of deferred maintenance that hasn't been addressed. The carpets here have been here for about 25 years, so it's about that time. So we're going to get a nice little refresh going here, and then we'll address that entire building. So not just specific areas, the whole building. So it'll be a pretty large undertaking. And with that, we will introduce Damian Lee from Greystone West and he will present the bids.
I have a question, will
Yes,
this,
absolutely.
will this room here have any work done? on
Every
it?
room in this building will get done, except for the
Because
superintendent.
this is a pretty new room here, I mean, this is a pretty new room.
Just the carpet.
The carpet.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
the carpet is aged out. If you can see certain spots of yeah, we're gonna make everything mesh together. So just on the place.
And I'll add to that also, there are gonna be some AV changes to make this more functional so that you'll be able to, you'll be able to view screens from wherever you are in the room. And also we'll be able to do public comment in a more direct space for so they're not calling over. So there'll be a few changes to make this more functional.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So as Julie and Adam mentioned, we have recently had a bid here for the Marin County Office of Education interior paint and flooring project. We received 6 bids and actually had a 7th that was declared non-responsive. They didn't follow instructions and turned it in the wrong location. So that was rejected as unresponsive. We did have the low bid ultimately have a clerical error, and per public contract code, they are allowed to request withdrawal of that clerical error resulting from that physical error if they catch it in a certain time period from the bid. So in this case, they were artificially low, as you see, board packet, structural instructions, struck through. They did find that clerical error and requested withdrawal. And ultimately, our recommendation is to proceed with the board to CWS Construction Group in the amount of $947,300. That's inclusive of a base bid as well as an alternate for what is called additional floor preparation. In this case, it's a coating that's made from moisture barrier. One of the things that happens with older concrete slabs on occasion is if you have moisture that gets up through the concrete, it can result in the floor having more adhesion going forward. Make sure that we accounted for that as part of this. We did third-party testing to confirm that the humidity was high enough to require that in this case. So it's a recommendation just for overall longevity of the flooring. Replaced here. I'm good open up for any questions or concerns.
Great. Any questions?
No question.
Yes.
I just noticed that in the 2 bids, it appears like we are awarding it to the 2 entities it's on the separate bids to the ones who quoted the lowest price. And I can understand that from the mathematical standpoint, but what are the other factors that we consider when we decide to award a bid?
Sure, that's a great question. There's a few different what's called delivery methods, and some allow for consideration of different factors, and some ultimately are driven primarily by price, but ultimately what they call responsiveness in addition to that. And so in this case, it's lowest responsible and responsive bid. So what that entails here is that they have to have a contractor's license, they have to have a bond and surety and an insurance company backing all of that up. They have to have certain ratings for each of those things. They have to be registered with the Department of Industrial Regulations and experienced in this sort of work. But primarily, ultimately, so long as they meet those minimum qualifications, cost is the main driver. And that's a process that was used historically for schools for many years. Only recently have some of these other processes come in where you can consider locality and other kind of benefits with it. But the reason that we might consider different delivery methods, one over the other, tends to do with cost of the project. So the sophistication level required, we generally approach it as about $1 million divided. If you're under $1 million, we typically go with this process, which is lowest responsible bid. If you're over that $1 million threshold, many times we'll consider an alternate method like lease back or some of the others where we consider additional factors.
Thank you.
Okay, and go, Trustee.
Have you worked with them before?
We have, actually, this contractor, we had really good results with over the Marindale HVAC replacement a couple of years ago using a different method. But I've worked with them with the county office in the past on multiple projects and very well.
Great. Any other questions from the board? Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, one follow-up. And the amount that they quoted, is that inclusive of contingency, or is a contingency an extra amount?
So it does contain a little bit of built-in contingency here. It also has, we're allowed to up to 10% beyond this for unforeseen conditions. So typically we'll include occasionally, like in this case, we've got the hallway in far into the building. where we don't quite know how well the park carpet's going to go without taking plywood with it. And so we built in some contingency specifically to be able to replace that plywood if indeed they put a demo out the carpet, the plywood comes up too.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? I have just because I've known Damien here for a long time and his father and Greystone, your company. Can you just share with the new members your relationship to the county and what exactly your role is in all of this, just so we all understand?
So I'm now the principal in charge of Greystone West, founded by my dad back in 1997. So 30 years of business. Worked here at the county office for roughly 20 something years, 25 years, or thereabouts. I actually, weirdly enough, managed the last replacement of the floor at your office. That was my very first project, or one of them, when I was 19 years old.
Wow.
So we are making a 20-year mark for this particular. Got older hardwood throughout. So,
Wonderful. Thank you. Any other questions? And is there any public comment? Seeing none, we need a motion on the floor. Say, or not the floor.
I move we approve your work.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, and can we just do an all those in favor?
Aye.
I,
Okay, all those opposed? Anyone abstaining? Unanimously passes. Thank you so much. Yeah, Damien, that did not need to be a roll call. Okay, good. All right, let's move on to item number 6.02. This is the award of bid for Walker Creek Ranch Sequoia Lodge Phase 2 project. Assistant Superintendent Jenkins.
So first I'll say that I think it's pretty clear that Damien's aged a lot better than the carpet has. Patrick McLaughlin, our ranch director, is off on a much needed break this week, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about this item that we're talking about today. The Sequoia Lodge was once a cornerstone of the Walker Creek program, featuring 2 conference rooms, a kitchen, accommodations for up to 20 guests, and it's been a popular retreat for returning groups, and was basically the first place booked every year up until about 3 years ago, when we needed to close it because of the long-term deferred maintenance. And so luckily we've been able to put together a plan to address that deferred maintenance, and we bring that plan, the last part of that plan, to you today. The lodge is currently closed, as I said, due to deferred maintenance after completing the first phase of repairs, which is essentially the removal of an unusable bathhouse. We are now recommending renovations that will create operational bathroom facilities, additional operational bathroom facilities on the bottom floor. There will be an addition of 1 bedroom space. It will repair the HVAC service throughout the building, and it will address floor and ceiling repairs. This work will allow the lodge to reopen this fall if we maintain the schedule that we have right now, and position it to generate an estimated $170,000 in annual conference revenue moving forward. So with that, I once again introduce Damien, who will take us through the bid. Thank you. So in this case, we again managed the bid process. It's advertised in the Independent Journal and local trade publications. We received ultimately 4 bids, and the lowest responsible bid is from Gecko Inc. based in Nevada. We have not personally worked with this contractor before, but they have a very good reputation. It's past recently. They are licensed with a Class B license. They meet all of the qualifications required to do the work. In this case, we have a hesitation recommended.
Okay. Very much. Any questions from the board?
I move we award the bid for Sequoia Lodge.
Okay, is there a second?
A second.
All right, wonderful. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
I,
Okay, any abstentions? Seeing none, unanimously passes. Thank you very much. Thanks again. Great. All right, now we look at 6.03, second amendment to the memorandum of understanding between the Brent County Office of Ed and the Ross Valley Charter School. Let's have a staff presentation.
So there was an attachment in your agenda that you can reference, but the reason we're doing this today is because the law changed and extended the charter schools renewal to out into the year 27, but our MOU was only through 26. And so this is just a 1-year extension to the existing MOU to allow us time to continue to do our oversight over the charter while their charter is still eligible through 27. And like we mentioned at previous meetings, they'll be bringing their full renewal to us in the fall. And so that's going to be the time when we look through the full renewal and follow that full process. And if we choose to renew, then that would be a time for us to really go through the MOU and revamp it. But right now, this is just an extension to the existing MOU.
Makes sense. Any questions from the board? Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, any abstentions? Seeing none, unanimously passes, so we can have that amendment. Very much. Now 6.04, first reading of public policy 9626, interdistrict attendance appeals. Deputy Superintendent Lance.
Hello, so I'm just going to walk you through the recommended amendments to the interdistrict transfer appeals policy. I always like to start where the board has authority in this policy, and as you know, when an interdistrict transfer appeal comes before the board, this board has the authority to determine if the child or student should attend the school of desired attendance in the time frame for which they should attend that school. Where the board does not have authority for, they can say if you go to school in the district, but not to which school they would go to in the district. And then I think lastly, most importantly, is that this board's decision is the final decision. Only eligible to come to you if they've exhausted all the appeal options at the district level. When they come here, this is the last step in that appeal process. So when you're looking at this policy, I think this is probably the policy that this board most interacts with. I think probably on average about 3 to 5 IDT appeals come before this board. So I believe you're very familiar with it. And another thing I wanted to point out is that this policy, as you can see, has not been updated or revised in over 30 years. And I would say doing really, really well. I've come before you with some policies from the 80s and said it's just striking everything. And I would say that with NIDA, I would say I can tell you that the amendments here that I'm recommending or being recommended to you today are just procedural, and they're all really framed around how can we make this easier for parents and school districts to understand. So it's really more about process, things that happen in the process that weren't memorialized, and we're recommending that they be memorialized. Those first two are really easy. We just need to align. This was an 8,000 series. You remember we got rid of our 8,000, moved into 9,000, so we're recommending moving this over. And I can see it should be 9626, 9926. And then appeals are added to the title itself because it previously just said interdistrict transfer. And so this is the appeal process. We want to clearly identify that. And then we're recommending we put the procedures, the how-to, what happens after you submit an appeal in the actual policy itself. So it's just one-stop shopping for everyone. They can see that. We're also recommending that we have when not considered language. So I get this question a lot of, well, will the board hear this? Well, what if this? What if that? So we've included that. One of those being if a parent ignores the time frame or the timelines at the district level, they're not eligible for an appeal because they've exhausted their right at the district level. So we have that additional clarity in there. Another thing that's really common that we're recommending is the open session versus closed session. As you know, the policy right now reads that everything will be open session unless the parent requests closed session, and that has been awkward at times, so we're recommending it's up to the superintendent or designee to work with the family to determine what should be an open and closed session to provide greater clarity. And I think you've all experienced when there's a family that may have 2 children and we go through that whole rigmarole of can we hear them both at the same time? Do they have to be separate? We have procedures and language in there that now we'll clarify that process. And then lastly, and I would argue most importantly, we do have language now that says where the board's authority rests here. Previously, that was in Ed Code, not memorialized here, so we're pointing to Ed Code outside of the policy. So now we can show the district or the family everything It happens all within one policy. I think it's self-explanatory, but in that packet, the green text is the recommended additions, the red text is the recommended deletions. And I think also equally important is what really this board looks at is that 5 criteria for when you're considering yes or no. There were no changes made to that 5 criteria. So that practice for you will not change at all. It's just really the procedural stuff that gets the parents and districts more informed when they come before you for their appeal. And the recommendation is then to move this to second reading on June 23rd, unless the board is interested in waiting second reading and adopting at this time.
Okay, thanks, Deputy Superintendent. Any questions for the presenter?
I'm assuming we shouldn't waive, because we should wait for members who aren't here to read it, or
That would be your opinion. But I like it. I think that's correct.
all right, okay. I was just curious.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, for me.
Okay.
Is there anyone
I
who
would-
disagrees?
No, I wouldn't want to leave a second reading
Yeah.
because I want to read it.
Okay,
Oh, no.
good answer.
I have an
Okay,
attitude, so.
yeah. Lee,
That's a
any
good
comments? Trustee McCarthy, any comments? Okay, do we need to make a motion? We just,
You can make a motion to move to second
is
reading.
that what we have to do? We have
Yes.
to make a formal motion? Okay, well, let's have it.
I move we approve a second reading at our next meeting. Is that the motion?
Just you recommend to approve to move it to the second reading on
Yes.
June 23rd.
That works. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed? Anyone abstaining? Seeing none, it passes. Wonderful. Okay. Now we're looking at the 6.05.
Yes, and this is, yes, correct. And this is second reading. I was before you at the last meeting talking about the revisions we've made to our charter oversight.
Superintendent, can I interrupt you for a moment? Sorry.
Absolutely.
Our clerk did not hear Member McCarthy's vote on the last item. Could we ask
I
you?
said yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So as I was saying, yes, it was before you at the last meeting, just updating the policies around the charter school appeal process and moving them from 2 to 5. Walked you through that last time. There were no changes recommended between first read and second read. So second read is before you exactly as it was previously. The recommendation is to approve as presented.
Any questions of the Deputy Superintendent? Okay, any questions from the public? Is there a motion on the floor to approve this and put it into the books?
I move we approve it and put it into the.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none? It's a 5-second reading passes. Thank you very much. Okay, now 606, second reading of board policy 5131.80 mobile communication devices. This is our second reading, so we had a few weeks to look at this. Dr. Lisa Miller.
Yeah, correct. I brought this forward at our last meeting for your first reading. This is a new law from California Department of Education that LEAs have a board policy that specifies cell phone usage or technology usage by youth. So we worked, Katie Foster and I worked with board member Jill, thank you, to draft what we brought forward for you. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Wonderful. Any questions from the board? Any comments from the superintendent on this issue?
No.
Okay, all right. Okay, anyone from the public would like to comment? All right, is there a motion on the table?
I move to approve the board policy 5131.08.
Is there a second?
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed? All right, any abstentions? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Good, okay, now we're looking at 607, resolution number 1093, specifications of the election order. County Superintendent of Schools, John Carroll.
Yeah, the elections office has let us know that the board needs to call for an election for those of you who are running for office.
Do you have a list of those people?
I don't, but I think John Lentz knows.
I think it's me. Hopefully it's not. It's Marilyn.
And Cindy as a provisional.
And that should be written. Okay.
What do you need?
So we have a resolution, we just have to look for a motion. Is there a motion to approve?
You guys should choose myself.
I don't think that matters.
I know.
I have a motion to, yeah, to be involved in the action. Or however it's supposed to be worded. But I have a motion.
Just move to, yeah, move resolution rest Cindy.
There's no conflict if any of it, that's not a conflict.
No, this is a resolution to call for the election. It's about positions, not people. So there's no conflict.
Okay. All right, now, is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor of passing
I
this
believe it's a
resolution?
roll call.
This is a roll call vote? Oh, they really give us something.
Right. Right, Vito Pan,
Yes.
Cindy Johansson.
Yes.
Nancy McCarthy,
Yes.
Marilyn Nimzer,
Yes.
Curtis Robinson.
Yes. Okay, wonderful. So that resolution 1092 passes unanimously. And now, item number 7, Marin County Board of Education reports. Reports and items introduced by the board members. Are there any? Okay. Trustee Johansson.
So last month, I attended the Northern California ACCBE Knowledge to Action Conference in Ukiah. And there were several informative sessions, specifically the ones that I actually thought were interesting and helpful to know more about were school safety plans and community schools, big picture learning, which has been working a little bit with our Marin Community School, talked a lot about examples around the state with community schools and providing alternative pathways as students begin to have more internships. Big picture is all about leave to learn in the real world. And then, as part of your education experience. MCOE was specifically recognized as an exemplar for school safety. So that was great. We were called out. And I also, it was really helpful to be there, mostly for the networking, talking to other county board members, and especially about ACCBE facilitating retreats, which is why we have them working with us in July. And then this weekend, I'm going to be spending more time with our friends at ACCBE in Sacramento as part of a strategic growth summit. I'm representing MCOE, and it's a little more of a hands-on working session of helping them be a strong, useful group for county boards of ed. My one item for everyone here is tomorrow from noon to 1. There's a webinar that's hosted and also recorded that sounds really interesting and relevant, which is about a new UCLA study called Beyond One Size Fits All Education Approaches, Rethinking California's Alternative Education System. And the webinar will provide recommendations coming out of this study of how we might be able to shift various practices for court and community schools in California. They'll have the UCLA study authors there, and they'll also have responses from some county offices of ed working directly with students. So just want to mention that. ACCBE.org.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, any other community reports? Yes, Marilyn.
Yes, this is for the Marin County School Boards Association. I have 2 things. One is that our executive, we had a call out for people interested in becoming members of the executive committee, and the end of that is that we will have all the same members of the executive committee going into the next year. So also the Thursday, August 27th is a definite save the date. We're going to be having a 3-part professional learning series opportunity. And it's going to be at 8 in the morning. This is Thursday, August 27th, and then throughout the year, there will be 2 more. And they're all focused on special education.
Thank you, Marilyn. Any other committee reports?
I do.
Okay. Let's see, go ahead.
Mary?
Sure.
Go for it.
Okay, so the Efficiency and Effectiveness Collaborative Committee met on May 13th, which is a Wednesday after our last board meeting. And in that meeting, we heard updates regarding the countywide middle school athletic program. And we also set meeting dates and topic for the following year, which is the 2026-27 school year. It has been decided that we will be discussing A, shared professional development for trustees, educators, administrators, and parents. B, career technical education. C, Marin County Middle School Athletic League. D, orientation and overview of E2 for new members following the December organizational meetings, which is typically done in December. And then also E, special education programming, and then lastly, e-bikes. And I'm in this committee with Nancy McCarthy. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Any other comments or reports from the board?
And I just want to say how much I think the improvements on the front of the Marin Community School looks so good every time I go by. It's just beautiful. So congratulations to everyone who worked on it.
Right. Okay, well, then let's call the meeting adjourned. Thank you so much.